As you can see, we're back here at Loftus Road for the latest instalment of London Calling, and we're joined exclusively by QPR chairman Tony Fernandes and director of football Les Ferdinand. They talked to us about the resignation of Harry Redknapp as well as the arrival of Chris Ramsey. We'll also be talking about the departure of CEO Philip Beard and Ferdinand's growing influence behind the scenes. We'll also be discussing that tweet. It's all right here and exclusive to London Calling. Well, here we are joined by Tony Fernandes and Les Ferdinand. Thanks very much for joining us. I don't even know where to begin. You're busy men, but it's been quite an incredible 2 or 3 weeks in terms of the changes that have gone on at QPR.
Yeah, I mean, I think once you've kind of made the decision to change things, you might as well do everything as much as possible. I think we're setting we've had many false starts, and we've made mistakes. We've learned along the way. Let's hope we've learned from those in a positive way, and we're putting the right people in the right place to really build the right infrastructure to go forward. Nothing's guaranteed in football, but I think we have made the right appointments to bring the club forward, but time will tell.
That 5:30 a.m. phone call from Harry Redknapp to say he's resigning, was that the catalyst?
I mean, I think the catalyst began, to be honest, when we brought Les in. I mean, I think that was the start of, we wanted to do things a bit more our way. When I say our way, many of the people involved in this club have built businesses. And I suppose when you come into a business, you have your gut feel on how it should be run, but then you say, well, I'm new to this business, so let's go with the way it's being done, let's go with the wise advice, etc. But I think after 4 years, we decided we wanted to get people who had passion, who cared, and Les was the first guy we brought in that remit. And obviously, we've been planning many changes on the football side, not on the first team, the academy, the scouting, etc., etc. And Les has been using this time, not rushing into it. Of course, we were, like entrepreneurs, as soon as you make the change, you want things to happen. And Les would always hold our horses and say, well, let's see what Chelsea are doing, let's see what Arsenal's doing, let's see what Liverpool's doing, and other clubs as well along the way. So I think that was the start. And then obviously, with Harry going, we decided that we might as well make a few more changes.
From the outside looking in, people might say, well, Les Ferdinand, that makes sense. He's a QPR legend, get him involved in some capacity. It pleases the fans. He's now director of football, he's head of football operations. He'll probably play a lot of golf and almost be in an ambassador role. Clearly that's not the case, and one thing Les isn't is a yes man. Has he surprised you with how he has been?
No, I mean, I think one, when I met him in Jakarta, I realized that what I look for in people, to be very honest, is people who have something to prove. And I think Les could have done a lot more in previous areas. And I think it's our advantage that we say, we'll come here and we'll unleash that potential that you have. You can see from his CV, he's been constantly trying to improve himself by going on courses, etc., etc. I noticed that in the press release, he actually mentioned, that some of the stuff he's been doing will aid him well going forward. So what attracted to me was a burning passion. Obviously the QPR side helps, but I think that's not a requisite. That's a bonus. It's a big plus, obviously, for the fans, but we want to get people who have passion, who want to build something. And in Les's case, I felt we got something that he had a point to prove to many people, that he could do something more than he was given that opportunity to. And I think we're lucky that we've got him, and we've given him that opportunity to show his true ability.
You talk about people with a point to prove. We'll just speak to you, Les, on Chris Ramsey. You know exactly what he's about, and he seems to have taken on the caretaker role, which has become permanent role until the end of the season very well.
Can I quickly just say, before you go into Les and Chris, I mean, you'd think that he'd been doing this for years, but I watched his, and that's what a true professional is, right? I mean, when we were discussing about the first press conference, should Chris do it or should Les do it? And, we pumped for Chris. And when you watch the first press conference, you think, my God, he's been a Premier League manager. He talks like he's been doing it for ages, and that shows the mark of a great person. And obviously you'll come to that dream coach and all those things in a second, I'm sure. But when I was watching it, I was like, wow, we're really blessed. We've just, you see on the players' pitch or Raheem Sterling or someone, you think, wow. From this, it's like, wow, where did this come from? And that's a plus. I'll hand it back to Les now. But I just wanted to add that in.
And to go on from what Tony's saying and from the question you asked, it looked like he'd been doing it for years. He has been doing it for years. Yeah. He's been doing it for many years without being noticed. And in some respects, a lot of people taking credit for what he's done and implemented in different places. Chris has been out to America and managed out in America. People don't know that. He managed Luton with Ricky Hill many years ago. People don't remember that, So unfortunately, because he's been on the youth side of things, and he was at Spurs and elsewhere, you get kind of like put into this little niche. That's all you're able to do. But the biggest compliment I could pay to Chris in knowing his ability, I've always said, if I had him as a player when I was coming through, I'd have been much better than what I was. And that's the biggest compliment I could pay him, because I see what he does. I know his capabilities. It's just a name perhaps people don't associate with being a first-team manager.
What are his strengths as a coach? Everyone, when Steve McLaren was here, you spoke to the players, they raved about his coaching. But having spoken to the players already, and we're only, less than a week in really, 3 or 4 days since he was appointed in full-time charge now. What are his strengths as a coach, and what does he bring to the table on a day-by-day basis?
Just before you talk about the football side, I think one of the key aspects is the people side.
Yeah.
And I think we just had a staff meeting out there. If people enjoy working with you, I think, we had some interesting characters in my 3.5 years here.
It's an understatement.
So, but everyone had a nice word to say about Steve McLaren.
Yeah.
Even if some of them couldn't even pronounce his name. I used to get some texts, that guy, because he was good with people. He inspired people. People enjoyed working with him.
And do you see that in Chris already?
I see that very quickly. Obviously, I get WhatsApps and messages, and we have some very strong characters here. We've had some very successful players. We've got some new players, but and I'm getting it from agents who manage some of our players who are like, wow, it's organised, it's great. I mean, Les can talk about the coaching side, but I'll tell you from the people side, and I have a bit more experience of the different types of personalities in QPR from Les. The people side is something that is important. Yeah. That players got to feel they can respond to you, and they feel you care about them, and you're giving them their best ability, and you're not running them down and all these other things. So I think that Chris is a very good people's person. On the coaching side, obviously, he's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think what the players, all players cry out for is for organisation, for an understanding, a game plan, and straight away that's what Chris has given to them. Some structure in training, a will for knowing what you're doing in training that you're going to replicate in a game on a Saturday. So there's all aspects of training that players need, and I finished playing when I was 39 years, nearly 40 years of age, and there wasn't a day that I didn't learn. I didn't feel like I learned something new. And if you're going out to coach, the only time I left Queen's Park Rangers was when I got to a stage where I felt I needed to improve Les Ferdinand as a footballer. Yeah. So every time you go out, you need to be trying to improve yourself. And if you've got a coach that recognises that and can get that little bit more out of you, I think that's what players respond to, and that's what Chris has done.
It was really interesting, wasn't it, at Sunderland? And I've never heard this before in my 10 years in football. Joey Barton and I think Stephen Corker came off the pitch, as did Chris Ramsey, and said that's the best we've warmed up. Right. And they said from that warm-up, we knew we were 100% prepared. What did they mean by that?
I mean, nowadays you get people that do set warm-ups and they go out and the players have to take some responsibility for that as well. Because you're professional and in the first meeting, the one thing I said was, okay, the manager's gone, and we can't blame the manager for everything because you're professional footballers, and at any given time you have to make sure that you're capable of going out and performing for 90 minutes, unless you're injured. Yeah. But if you're not injured, you've got to be fit enough to play for 90 minutes and do what's ever required of you. So to say that's the best they've warmed up, they need to take a real good look at themselves. to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, the manager can only implement stuff, they can only put things in place, but it's whether you take that on. And they decided to take it on at Sunderland, and you know, they were organised, they were well prepared. But that started not on the night.
Yeah.
That started the week before, in the preparation to the Sunderland game. So what I'm saying is, you get into the groove and you just carry that on a Saturday. You mirror what you've done during the week.
A habit.
Exactly, and that's what happened.
Speaking about Chris's press conference, he comes across very well, very relaxed, very comfortable. One of the questions he was asked was, basically, you seem a nice guy. Have you got it in you to tell the players when you're not happy about something? And he said, don't you worry about that. He doesn't suffer fools by the sounds of it.
No, he doesn't. And you know, I've worked closely with him for a number of years, and the only reason I recommended him to Tony in the football club was because in my remit, I can't afford to bring anyone here as just my mate. I need to bring someone here that I know is going to improve this football club. And that's what I did, because I knew 100%, 110, 150% that he was going to improve what he was doing here at this football club. And in that means you're not able to suffer fools lightly. Yeah. You know, you have to be authoritative when you need to be authoritative. But as Tony alluded to earlier on, he's a people person. So there's all sorts of different styles of management, and he's one that kind of like knows how to deal with certain people. You know, you go into any football club, you've got 30, 40 different personalities you've got to deal with at any given time, and it's being able to get the best out of those personalities out on that football pitch that's going to determine whether you're a good manager or not.
Tony, let's get on to the dream tweet. Firstly, what did you mean by that?
Can I just get my coat?
Yeah, it wasn't him, that's for sure. There were a few things that were going through my mind at the time. One was the constant speculation of different sorts of managers, and I wanted the players to be focused on the game and say, look, we found someone, right? And there are pros and cons. People say it's a distraction, etc., etc. But there was too much speculation. I mean, it was crazy. Some of the names that were coming up were really quite preposterous. So that was what. Was there someone? Yeah, there were a couple of guys that was in our mind at the time. But as soon as you saw Chris, you began to say, hey, you've got someone here who really is a dream in many ways. When I saw the press conference, when I heard how the players were saying, when I heard agents who had nothing but bad things, moan about everything, right? They would just say, oh, the players are saying it's organised, they're up for it, etc. I was like, well, we don't need to look any further. Let's just, give Chris the role. And the other shareholders believed in that. And that's led to Chris being the first team coach. It's his job, unless something disastrous happens. And football is strange, so I'm never going to predict anything anymore, right? Because nothing ever goes according to plan. But really, it's only 2 games, to be fair, and Chris as well. But it's there for him. There is no one else right now.
Head coach until the end of the season. Is this his opportunity for a more long-term position as
Chris
head coach?
is here for long term. His role
I think that is one of the fans' concerns.
Yeah.
What if we go down? What if you appoint a new manager? What happens to Chris? Because we're hearing great things about Chris.
Well, we've talked about all the different permutations. If we were to appoint a new manager, Chris is his first team coach and head of player development, and the academy still continues, and that's already been discussed. If at the end of the season we think he's the right guy to go forward, he wants to do it, then there's a deal there as well. Everything has been done already. So Chris is someone we definitely don't want to lose at all. But if I was a betting man, I'd say that he'd be here for a long time in his role right now. But football is strange, right? Who would have said the odds on Chris Ramsey becoming the manager of QPR at the beginning of the season? He'd be a rich man if he'd taken those odds. So I think
it's important to add as well. The predicament that Chris has come into at the moment. We're 14 games, 15 games left of the season. whoever we brought into the football club to take over that role or to the position that Chris is doing right now was going to be a gamble, no guarantees. So it'd be very difficult to judge him. Yeah, we want to stay in this division, of course we do, and we'll be doing everything we can to stay in this division. But I think it'd be unfair just to judge him on these last 15 games. You know, he's made a difference already, and hopefully we can continue to make that difference. But it'd be very difficult to just judge him on these 15 games.
You're director of football now, yet you're also on the training pitch. How do you define your role as director of football?
See, I think other people define it a certain way. I do believe that your director of football needs to have a training ground presence, a training ground influence, if it's possible, if the manager requires it. Because now when the manager comes and says to you, no, I need a right back or I need a central midfield player, hang on, what about the ones we got in the under-21s? What about the ones that's coming through in the 18s? Are we going to bring someone in that's going to block their pathway? And, you know, from the minute I got here, you know, part of my remit was to create a pathway that allows players to come through our system and play in our first team. So rather than the manager just coming and saying, right, we need this player, we need that player, and I can say, hang on, we've got someone coming through the 21s. Do we really need to go and spend X amount of money on someone that we can nurture into our first team if we got the right people around them? So, you know, being on the training ground, watching the under-21s, watching the 18s, watching down to the 15s, as far down as the 15s, is important to me because I need to know what we got coming through the system. So when I do go and speak to Tony and the other shareholders about where we need to replenish, we know that we really need to replenish those positions.
Michael Doughty coming on against Sunderland, I know was a real high point for you, Tony, but it must have been for you as well, Les, because whilst it's only early days in your time here, players beneath the age group that Michael's in can now see that pathway. There is a pathway there.
And that's important. And, you know, we lost a young kid called Just Laurent to Brentford earlier on in the season a few months ago. And that was because he couldn't see that pathway. You know, I tried to persuade him that, you know, it's my remit to create that pathway. But, you know, his dad and himself sat down and thought, well, look, no one's come through this system in 16 years. And with all due respect to the managers that have been here in the past, I understand their situations. They've either been trying to stave off relegation or gain promotion and felt going into the under-21s wasn't, you know, we didn't have what they needed. But a lot of the times you sit there and you watch football games and you look at the under-21s and you think the one thing they are going to do is they're going to run about and be honest and give you everything they've got. And until you bring them into the fold, you're never going to know whether they're capable or not. The one thing we do say, they're never going to be worse than what you got out there. So give them an opportunity, and until you give them that opportunity, you never know what's going to happen.
Are you, having assessed the EDS group and the under-18 group, are you confident that in 3, 4, 5 years' time maybe that there will be another Les Ferdinand? Yeah,
we're certainly hoping so. And, you know, at the same time, we need to replenish with our scouts and make sure that we're scouting in the right areas and bringing the right people into the football club. That hopefully will be a next Les Ferdinand, will be another Charlie Austin, will be another, you know, Danny Dicho, Kevin Gallen, all these people that come through that have come through our system in the first place. And, you know, this is what QPR's crying out for.
Okay, one of the other changes that took place, of course, was Philip Beard. He's leaving next month. Just explain that to us. He resigned from his post.
So just to make it very clear on this dream manager thing. Yes, there was someone, and then, but I mean, it was someone that was going to, as I put in my tweet, it was going to take some time to talk, get to know, etc. When we saw his credentials, we thought, wow, this guy's kind of special. He's different. And then during that period, you know, Chris rose to that. To us in the same vein, thinking, wow, he could be this. He's really fits everything. I just want to add a couple of things on Chris in my last few days and talking to him. Right, he finishes with the first team, goes to the EDS, then is with the under-14, then goes and does admin work. Part of his contract, by the way, he requested that we put him up in a hotel on certain days, so he's close to the training ground, so he can work late and come in the morning. If that isn't a dream employee, I don't know what is, to be honest, right? I mean, he's working 24/7, and I'm at different time zones, and he calls me at all kinds of times in the time zones. So, you know, he's not making this up to impress me. And he talks openly about the football. He says, whatever you want to know, let me know, etc. So, you have this vision. You're very careful. It's very important we get the right person this time, right? Then you see someone and you think, wow, this guy looks fantastic. And he ticks all the boxes. And so you say, okay, I'm going to really throw the press out because I'm tired of all these names that are coming out. And I say, I found my dream manager. And then in that period, you suddenly say, God, it's staring you right in the face.
And it certainly didn't affect anybody on the day of the game because that tweet went
No,
out.
part
It affected me a little bit because I had about 55,000 fans before I went into the game.
But the players then went out and still, Chris fair play, still put on a...
Well, part of me was that I wanted them to focus on the game. And I just wanted it out of the topic, right? There's a lot of them texting me, who's the manager, who's this, is it this guy? It was the press, was everyone.
So what you thought was, let me send out a tweet that says, I found my dream manager. So when I got to the game, all the players were saying to me,
correct.
Who's the dream manager? Let's not focus on that.
So anyway, that's one of those gambles that actually worked. 2050 that didn't. But anyway, I just wanted to say that it wasn't a fabrication. But then you see someone who's right in front of you who's
staring in your
face, and you say, hey, don't be an idiot. You've got someone. And then as time goes by, you think, Jesus, did this just come from heaven? I mean, he's just, so right.
And
I'm not trying to avoid the Philip Beard question. I'll come back to it.
No, we'll go back to that.
Yeah.
It's important to point out that it wasn't purely because we beat Sunderland 2-0 under Chris's tenureship that suddenly he's perfect.
No, I mean, look, that helps. Let's be real. But I think the main point was, to be honest, in the period when I put the tweet out, I got so much positive remarks from the players. I got to know Chris in a different way because obviously we're talking about first team, but the thing that really got me was his commitment still to young players, right? That he was continuing to go to the EDS, he was continuing to watch the under-14s, and a lot of our conversation was on that, as opposed to just who's injured and who's not. And I tell you one thing, that the two ways of life. There's a positive way and a negative way. And that's why sometimes I'm guilty. I get a little bit frustrated with some of the fans sometimes. Because life is tough. I've just had the toughest time of my life over the last 50 days. And they're big blows. Charlie Austin injury, Leroy Fer. Done. Sandro still not fit, etc.
Last minute goals.
Yeah, the two ways of taking it. I got to say, both Les and Chris are like, we'll find a way. Les would tell me, when I was playing at QPR, I was the third choice striker and two guys came off and fourth. So I didn't think you would possibly be that low, Les.
I didn't either.
I wanted to up you one there.
That was the manager's choice.
And he found a way, right? So
positive attitude goes a long way.
Correct. And I mean, Chris doesn't sit there and moan and say, oh, this is out there, this is going to be a problem, we haven't got this. And, he's like, we're going to find a solution now.
And that'll rub off on the players, won't it?
100%. And I mean, it's the way I've always run life, right? Starting an airline with 2 planes against a national carrier that's at 150. So that's why I get a little bit frustrated because, when I see some of the negative tweets and stuff, because I think, Jesus, now is not the time to run everyone down. It's too late. I'm not going to change. We just got to get behind and get the best out of these last remaining games, right? And, I understand some of it is your way of getting your frustration out, and it's great to take it out of me, but I just think it's great if we can get everyone, which I have to say, 99 on the game day, this is an amazing place. Everyone gets behind the team. Did
the reaction of the fans to the Chris Ramsey appointment surprise you because it was universally applauded?
No, because they were sending me tweets beforehand to say, "Don't look for your dream manager is Chris." So I got that feedback pretty clearly. I mean, I know there are various people who have pros and cons of Twitter, but look, I've seen it from both ways, right?
I'm one of those.
Pro or con? You were pro or con?
No comment.
He comes, I pay him. AirAsia, the way Twitter was an amazing communicator for me during that incident.
Very much
and
so.
I think the families found it very useful. So you got to take the good with the bad. You got to take the positive tweets with it, and things when you're in the public face, you are going to make some mistakes, etc. But I think it's still better to be transparent and open than not be.
Okay.
Philip Beard
resignation.
Yeah, I mean, I think Philip. In some ways, it's weird being a CEO here because the chairman's not here every day. So, sometimes the role becomes a chairman. Most of the time, you're at away games, you are the face of the club, etc. So, I think there are two sides of a football club. There's a non-football side and there's a football side. And, we wanted Philip to focus on the non-football side. We got Les in to do that. And I think Philip decided that wasn't the role he wanted to play. We want a CEO who's going to drive the stadium, drive the training ground development, social media, the commercial side. I think we can do a lot more on the commercial side. I think we've shown the way in the social media side and PR side. So I think like anything, same with Harry. We leave in good terms and we talk to each other, etc. It's a direction that from now on we wanted to take, and we were going to drive that decision and do it our way without sounding like Frank Sinatra. But we're going to put the money up. We've decided after 4 years that we're going to do it our way. And if you want to be with us, be with us. If you don't, then we part as good friends.
The appointment of a new CEO, is it imminent, and what experience are you looking for?
No, I mean, it's not my priority. I honestly think off the pitch, the respective heads have been doing a pretty good job.
People will say, though, Rebecca Cablehorn's left. Obviously, Ruben's now been appointed. Will Ruben have a more hands-on role in terms of being a direct liaison between yourselves and the Loftus Road operation? Obviously, Les is your eyes and ears at Harlington Academy.
Yeah, I think he will play a bigger role.
And just to be clear, Ruben is different to Ruben.
Yeah, physically, mentally, in every which way. I don't think you'd see Ruben, as you're referring to him, assault people.
When we score a goal in a night, he goes crazy. There's no pending charge.
But no, you've obviously worked with him before at Caterham.
I mean, he has. Look, Rebecca is a big loss to this club. She's fantastic. She's very good. She's very black and white. I've learned masses from her. She is really the consummate professional. Even though she was leaving within a few weeks, she was still giving Les and me a hard time on any stupid potential deals we were looking at doing. And I want to share that the transfer window, by the way, is what QPR is going to be like. We just want to rush into things, right? And fair credit to Zarate, by the way, who's been, I got to say, I watched the under-21 game on video the other day. This boy ran his socks off.
Yeah, handled the situation well.
Yeah, he's really trying. I mean, there's been so much written, etc., etc. And there are two ways you can throw your toys out of the pram, which many players do. Mm-hmm. But fair credit to him, he's trying very hard. And then after Zarate, we really didn't do anything. I don't think we did anything, did we?
No.
Which is very un-QPR-like, right? I think you went home early. You text me and said, I'm going home now at 5 o'clock, I think, was it?
Might have been a bit later in the end.
Yeah.
5 to 10 or something.
But I think the fans have seen that in previous years, QPR might have made a stupid gamble that didn't pay off. And does that hark back to this new philosophy?
Yeah, and I think, new culture, new way we do things, not rushed, and we're going to be very disciplined about the way we do things.
How has Les helped in that? Because I suppose he's almost a barrier before.
I think Les has helped
you.
because, well, apart from that, plus we talk every day, and I respect his views, and he's looking at it objectively from what the manager needs, what the club's like. He's what's been needed in the club, to be honest. We've always toyed about this director of football, but we've never found the right person that we felt comfortable with. It's probably one of the most important positions in the club, to be honest. So it's been great having Les, to be honest. It's been a massive burden off all of us. I think you know, that some of the shareholders will drive him nuts with long lists of players, and you know, but I think we're both finding our ways, and the most important thing is a transparent and honest way, and a trust. And that's the most
Can I
important
just jump
word.
in there and just say, for me, it's important that people understand my role was not the person that picks the players for the football club. You know what? I work with a manager, and if the manager says to me, Les, we need a centre forward, and this is, I say, what type of centre forward do you need? And it's my remit to go out and find 4 or 5 centre forwards in that, as long as it falls in line with what the budget is for the football club. It's my job to go out and identify 4 or 5 players in the mould of what the manager wants, and say, well, here you go. These are the 5 players that fit that mould that you're speaking about. Which one of these do you want? And then it's up to us to profile that player and say, does he fit into the Queen's Park Rangers way of playing? Will he be an asset? What we're going to get out of him? How is he going to affect the other players, and how is he going to affect our football team? Rather than just bringing players in because their names or whatever, they've done something somewhere else before. Do they fit into our style of the way we want to play football?
I think that's the major difference. I think the most important phrase of this whole interview is the QPR way of playing, and that is now the QPR culture, the QPR, you know, philosophy. And I think that was the first thing Les said to me in Jakarta. And look, it's no secret, I supported West Ham before, and there was a West Ham style of play. There was, right, from that. So I thought, wow, that's great to hear that. And what Les said, it's got to permeate throughout the club, right, from under 8s all the way right up to the first team. Now the manager can change, but then that style will always be there, and that comes through the players you get, the under 8s you get, the type of coaches you get. So it's a philosophy that goes throughout the club, and that was music to my ears, to be honest.
There's been a few questions in from the fans. You just touched on if the manager needs to go out and find a striker, you'd be the one that does it. Charlie Austin's got less than 18 months on his contract now. I know that negotiations were underway with him and his agent. Where are we with that now? Because that will be a concern of the supporters with only 18 months to run.
I mean, I think let's go back to Les' statement, which has changed my view of life as well. There are always players out there. We mustn't, you know, I mean, Charlie's fantastic. He's great. We are in negotiations. It's tough for a player, and I think Les can see this from the other side as well, and I respect that as well. It's their, you know, we can get lots of players. It's their one career. They've got to make sure that they make the right decision. It's bloody hard for him, but I mean, Charlie's agent's a good guy. Me and Les have had many meetings with him, and I'm sure a deal will be struck. But it's timing. It's when it's right, and it's what's right for the club, what's right for Charlie. But we are in discussions.
Emma Warder was also pointed out there's as many as 9 players in the 25 that are out of contract this summer. I know in the past decisions have been made ultimately at the end of the season, and with the relegation scrap looking like it will go right to the wire. Is there anything you can say on the players? I mean, Henry, Barton, Ferdinand, Hill, Wright, Phillips, Fowler.
I think we've. I don't want to say this on, but we have a philosophy, and we're going to stick to that philosophy. We're obviously very aware, but I think the key thing is players wanting to make sure we stay in the Premier League first. End of the season, we'll do what we have to do. But you know, there's no point going and sign 9 players out there and then things change, etc. So the key is the second key word is having a plan and sticking to it, and not being pressured to do anything short term, which I think is what we did before.
In terms of the structure, the manager has been replaced by a head coach. What's the thinking, the reasoning behind that change?
I think it's in line with having a director of football as well, right? So it's now going to be, you know, players, coach will say this is what we kind of looking for, and together with Les, as he's just said, they'll go and look for the right players. And I think it's also not just the coach is the whole coaching philosophy throughout the whole, from under 8s right up to the first team. So, you know, when we're looking for a centre forward, hopefully in years to come, Les and Chris would have developed a guy from under 18s and all, and he would be that mould because he plays the way QPR wants to play. So, you know, I think Chris is a great example of the way forward. Thousands of managers out there. We were looking at a gift horse in the mouth with Chris. So hopefully in future, we'll be looking at lots of young kids coming through, and that'd be the first point of call. What have we got in the academy?
And the game has changed in terms of how long managers last at football clubs. You go back 20 years, managers tend to stay for a significant period.
Yeah.
Now the average shelf life is about 2 years. So it's difficult, impossible to build a long-term vision for a football club around a man who realistically may only be there for 2 years.
Well, I think the two things here, and what we talked to Les about, one is if you have a certain way, it doesn't matter who the manager is. But I'm desperate to have a long-term manager. I really am. I couldn't agree with you more. I don't know if he said it actually, but I give you the credit for saying it.
I'll take it.
But
Sure
successful clubs have long-term managers.
Yeah.
There's no secret in that.
That's right.
There's no rocket science. And I'm desperate for it. I really am. I've said it time again with everyone. And here's hoping, but you know, it's tough. But again, at least we're doing all the other things to make it easier for a continued philosophy.
Yeah.
Right.
You talk about other things. Obviously, we focus a lot on the pitch. There's obviously been various changes off it. Old Oak, Ed List has come out and said that Car Giant potentially will be part of plans for that area.
I don't see how.
What
I
kind of
don't,
update
I
can
don't
you
see
give
how
us?
Car Giant can't be part of the plans. I've never said it. He can't be. It's Car Giant who said QPR can't be part of the plans. You can't have someone who owns 40 acres not be part of the plan. I've always said we should work together.
Is that what you want?
Yeah, I've said that from day one.
Because they're QPR supporters as well, so there's almost a natural synergy there.
Yeah, I've always said it. You know, I think Car Giant feel that a football stadium would bring the values down. I disagree, obviously. I think if you look at the values around Highbury Emirates Stadium, prices have gone through the roof, to be honest. And I think a football club creates lots of jobs, which is desperately needed in these areas as well. And our idea for a stadium is not just a football stadium for 18 matches a year, or however number they are. But it's a heartbeat. There'll be lots of activities going around. And from my former business in music and stuff, I hope we create lots of labs and internet areas for young kids to go out and using crowdsourcing to create ideas and create jobs. And I think a lot of young entrepreneurs and young kids can be created. I'm looking at a different, the digital world has created an opportunity not just for guys to go to the traditional jobs, but to create lots of new things. And I think building around Old Oak should not just be about houses, but creating a heartbeat where we can build lots of things, whether they're studios, whether they're internet warehouses, so kids can have an office, come here, get advice, and create that. I've been involved in many entrepreneurial endeavour with the Duke of York. We've done lots of things, and I want to create all those ideas in West London. So,
And you see QPR as being the heartbeat of it.
absolutely, because if you look at the club, you've got a fantastic community centre. You look at what you guys are doing on the social media front. You look at what we can do on apps. You look at the ability to bring lots of businessmen who are supporters in this club. C Club, you've got Carphone Warehouse, you've got tons of guys who come here that, you know, we could build fantastic incubators in here. The football club should be more than just a football club. I've seen it from what our community trust does, but I'm looking at how we can be a conduit in the digital world to create entrepreneurs and to create jobs. So there's never been a doubt in my mind that Car Giant shouldn't be involved in this. In fact, when I first met him, I said, come be our partner. He said, I'm not interested. I don't want to be in property. He's changed 360 degrees now. He just wants to be property now.
But you're confident. You're confident that a long-term objective.
Yeah, I mean,
of
I
this
think
club is
common
to deliver
sense
a
will
stadium
prevail,
over.
right? It's trouble in this world. Egos can create lots of bad decisions, but you know, I'm all for working together, and I've done it in the hardest possible business, the airline business, right? Against guys who are really want to extinguish me in the most painful possible way, national carriers. And yet we all work together now. So I'm optimistic.
And Warren Farm, 2017 was
Yeah, I think
was
that's
given
still
us a
on.
date a
Yeah,
couple of weeks
that's still on. I think Les just told me the other day he liked the plans and didn't see too many changes from what he saw.
They look good.
And how
Les
important
will
is
be
that,
involved.
Les?
It's extremely important. I think to have everybody on one site, knowing it's the home of your training ground, a bit like the stadium. You know, you just want to be at home, and at the moment we're split between two sites where we are at the moment, because that's the way it has to be. But it'd be great to just have everybody on the same site, same facility, So it brings everything home together.
I still think, and I just want to add it, that the old QPR, and I say the old QPR, that's under my chairmanship still.
So what, are you talking 2 years ago? Or
Yeah, I was talking about 35 million, 45 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The new QPR is, we'll have good facilities, pitches being the most important thing, but the most important thing is the people and the recruitment philosophy. You can have the most fancy frigging training grounds, but if you don't put the right people in there, who bloody cares, right? So that's the message I was trying to say. There wasn't a delay on Warren Farm, but was spending 40 million to build a Tottenham Hotspur. That's a different football club from us, right? A different position from us, and attracting players who maybe want to be glamorized.
So you think a scaled down scheme benefits QPR for where this club is at?
Yeah, and I think I'd rather put the money into hiring better coaches and having better pitches, etc., than having amazing facilities, right? And so I've gone back to the principle that I believe in very dearly, which I said upstairs in the meeting just now, is it's all about people. And it's all about bringing the best out of people. My job is to make all of you guys turn from raw diamonds to diamonds, to give you the opportunities to be the best. Les will do that on the football side. I can't do that. I mean, I can't take an 8-year-old and make him George Best. That will be Les, Chris, and the team of coaches. But same philosophy. Their job is to turn a raw diamond into a diamond. I'm doing it here. In Les's case, I think in years to come, people will say, "Wow, what an inspired move." My job is to see that talent and say, well, give him a shot. And in the same way that we've unleashed you guys, and we probably have more trophies than any department here at the moment. Les will change that hopefully soon.
Don't mind him changing that.
But we've let you run wild, right? I mean, you haven't really come to us too often to say, can we do this, can we do that? A lot of the Together We Stand, and in fact Asia has taken some of your lines, I noticed. But we've allowed you to be the best, and we've turned you guys into probably one of the best in the Premier League.
Love to end it there, but there's a couple more points. In terms of the philosophy now is very different to the previous philosophy. The previous philosophy was about bringing in established players, etc.
I think if I can just add, philosophy's never changed on that aspect. I've always said, if you looked at all my old interviews, I want to have people who have blue in their blood.
Sorry, yeah.
It was just that the circumstance. We came up here, we were battling when we took over ownership. Neil wanted to buy some players, we brought some players in. Neil didn't survive, Mark Hughes came in, brought a whole lot of players in. Mark left, Harry brought a whole lot of players in. And we kept saying, what about these young guys? What about... I think Les can attest, every manager, and we've gone through, I think we kept saying, what about young guys? And the manager, and I think Les has said it, it's tough, right? Because they're fighting for there and then. They're like, I don't have time to develop a player. I want someone who I can trust, right?
Short term to get in.
So some manager, and I think in Chris's case, he's a little bit different. I'm not saying he's right or wrong, but I think he's willing to try and work, because that's his, and that's where it's changed a bit. The shareholders' change has been resolute, but we didn't maybe have the positioning or the coach who had the time and the inclination to do it. Chris's life has been about developing young players, and I think probably the most important point in this interview has been, Les said if Chris was coaching him, he'd be a better player, which is the first time I ever heard him say that he could be a worse player. He has, it was funny, we went for dinner the other day with an old friend, and the 7-year-old kid was collecting all these cards, right? And amazingly, he had a Les Ferdinand card. And he was asking him questions. I think most
children in West London carry them around.
I was surprised that they even made Les Ferdinand's card.
that old, them boots on.
And he was asking him questions about when will you get to this position, etc. And he was contesting the fact that he had already, but one goal was taken away from him because it was considered an own goal. So I learnt a little bit that night from the 7-year-old kid. But I want to be very clear. We've always believed in bringing young players through. I've always spent the most time in the academy. Just circumstance has led us into short-termism, and I think we've just said, well, we'll bite the bullet now.
And can I just put, and I think it's important to understand is, like, next year you're not going to see a team full of under-21s. I think it's important to marry that, and you've got to have I go back to my experiences of being here myself. When I came into the side, I had people like Ray Wilkins, Peter Reid, Kenny Sanson, all experienced, good pros, who helped to develop me, and that's what these players will need as well. So some of the young players coming through, you're trying to marry with some experience, some good experienced players, as well as having the youngsters.
Well, they do, and that's what we say in the airline, right? It's the experienced captains who bring in some of the young guys. And I think one of my best signings has been Richard Dunn, which I did in Exeter, right? I mean, I think he's brought Ryan Nelson, all these guys, and they're not just good
if they're
players.
the right characters.
That's the word.
Good pros.
They bring a lot to the club. I think Ryan Nelson shows what a good professional is. Richard Dunn shows what a good professional is, right?
Like
and
Clint Hill's a great example. Joey Barton can be a great example of that, you know.
Is this the most content you've been as QPR chairman?
Is it been the most content? No, I don't think you can ever say that. I think it's the most relaxed I've been. Does that make sense? When actually we're still in a relegation battle, but I feel
is that because the building blocks that you feel the foundations
I feel finally we're getting a team that understands what we want, and I think what we want is what the fans want. I don't think there's any disagreement when I see, you know. So I'm most relaxed. You're not content. You want to win. You can't be involved in a sports team and be content with our position, can you? You wouldn't be in it if you're happy to be 17th. You know, when you're 17th, you want to be 15th. You want to be 14th. Otherwise, there's no point. And we dream of bigger things always. Otherwise, there's no point being in this game.
In terms of the structure, this is the.
But that's what I feel. You know, I mean, we had a staff meeting up there. I looked around. I mean, I feel that off the pitch, we've got a good structure. We need to, you know, maybe strengthen it a little bit, you know, but of structure. And I think now, for the first time, I think we're putting the right building blocks in place. When I go down to Concord Club, I see similar things being done at Concord Club that I see on the first team. And so I haven't actually physically seen it, just hearing it, because I haven't seen Chris at Harlington yet. I'll try and pop down tomorrow for a little bit. I'm going to do something I've never done before, actually. I'm going to take a train up with the team to Hull. Don't ask me why I picked that match. But actually it's not too far from my daughter, so I'll kill two birds with one stone. I'll go up to Durham after that. But I just think it's nice to... Actually, the players were asking me, hey, you know, come with us on an away game. I don't think I'll do the whole experience, but that could be too much for me.
To travel with them and engage what they're texting you and tweeting you.
Just to see, but it's not my job to. I'm not the manager. I don't want to get involved in that. But just to show that we're together, right, and that we're behind them. And you know, I won't tell you the player. The player texted me today and said, you know, we're playing for all of you today, and we'll make this a fairy tale. You know, he didn't have to send that. It was a nice text. He said, playing for Chris, playing for Les, playing for you, and we're going to make you proud. I haven't received a text like that in 4 years, to be honest. So it was nice. But we're on euphoria, right? They can change in 2 weeks' time. So, but I thought, well, I just want to show the players that I care and I'm behind and I value them playing their hearts out as they have in the last few games.
And it's important as well because, as you said, it could change in 2 weeks' time, and I know what's going to happen. People are going to start saying because of a lack of experience. You know, oh, Chris ain't got the experience. And all I keep saying to people, no one had more experience than the previous manager. No one in the league had more experience than the previous manager that we had at this football club. People need to understand that as well.
Okay, last couple of questions for each of you. Firstly to you, Les. You've been at the club now for 4 months. Are you pleased with the level of impact that you've had in that 4 months?
Yeah, I think I am. You know, I want it to be more. I want things to have changed quicker. I want things to have happened quicker. But that's just the nature of the way I am. Do you know what I mean? I want us to be in the top four if we possibly could be. But I know it's all going to take time, and it was important that I came in and had a look around and not try to change things and do things very quickly. I just had to see what was going on at the football club, assess it, and see what the best way forward is. I want to add to it. I don't want to take anything away. I want to add to what this football club is and make it better.
Okay, I remember when the first day you were at Harlington, walking down the corridor, and we were walking past some graphics, and you asked about the graphics. I said, these were actually put up by Mark Hughes when he was here, the previous manager. And I thought it was like an interesting anecdote. And you said, yeah, what they're still doing up there, and that's the previous manager. I thought, this guy's not playing games.
Yeah, exactly.
And Tony, last question.
Just going to say, I've noticed that our team's got a lot of style here. We've got Les Ferdinand, so even though your chairman looks like a slob, everyone else has got style around QPR. Les with his Gucci, Paul Morrissey with his name embossed on his sleeve.
Last question, you're throwing me there. Last question.
That was the objective.
11 coaches going up to Hull, fans getting behind the team. Couple of thousand going up there. They see the importance of the game, but in terms of support, it's great to hear, isn't it?
No, I mean, it still amazes me. I mean, it amazes me how dedicated fans are. And, you know, every chairman's going to say they've got the best supporters in the club, but I think clubs that have gone through what we've been through and you still take 11 coaches up, you know, up to Sunderland in midweek, and on a cold evening, you know, it's miles away from Loftus Road to Sunderland. That is something that is truly remarkable. And you know, I said fans in our position really, you know, when things are not going great, that's when you really see, as I mentioned upstairs just now, you see the mark of a true man when things are going wrong. When things are going great, it's easy to be a fan and everything's great. When things are going wrong, and you know, I can understand the frustrations. I can understand, I think, and all I'm trying to say is, look, let's just get behind everyone now and try and put the negatives behind. No one doubts everyone here is a fan. I mean, everyone here pays a lot of money, comes here, shouts their heads off, tattoos themselves, has their iPhone with a QPR. It's a large part of one's life, so there's never a doubt. But I'm just a different sort of person that, you know, we can be negative, we can moan and bitch and stuff. But right now, it's not going to make a difference. Let's be constructive. We've made mistakes. We've learned from them. We're building them. We'll make mistakes again. I don't think any club in UK can't say they've made mistakes. But we're listening. We're transparent. We're open. But I think now we should all put our energy into getting behind the boys, Chris, Les, and trying to stay up, and to keep engaging us, and all your points are noted, and you know, you got to take the good with the bad. You know, the two highlights for me on that game, just going back, the real highlight, no one's going to believe me, but the real highlight was seeing Doughty coming on, and you know, he tweeted me back actually when I mentioned it. That was like, it just brought a big smile to my face. Obviously, it's easier to smile because we were 2-0 up. But it was like, wow, that's really cool. You know, I mean, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning in Malaysia at the time, and watching on an iPad. And that was really cool. And, you know, Bobby keeps doing it for me. He's not doing it for me, he's doing it for himself. But I mean, it brings me a lot of joy. And it was a great goal. It's great how everyone's got behind, the team has got, it has the feelings of that playoff at Wigan here. I really felt something kind of special. I felt it when I went up to Wigan for the first time. But down here, and throughout that cup final, which is one of the greatest days of my life, if ever I feel depressed, I've been watching it a lot recently, by the way. I go onto YouTube and I see that, and I see your celebrations, and I see your interviews. I mean, I know every single blade of grass and that pitch, but I got that feeling that spirit is somehow coming together, and who knows? We'll wait and see. But as I said, I'll end this interview on the fact that I'm most relaxed because I finally believe we're getting it right. It may not happen at the end of the season, you know, we don't know. But what I'm saying, we're getting it right for the long term.
Great stuff. Tony, Les, thanks very much for joining us on London Calling. Stay tuned to qpr.co.uk for full details of the next show.